Welcome to Confessions of a Method Writer, Part 2. Well, welcome back. It's late once again. Seems to be times when I make these recordings. I guess to start off with, I want to talk about something a little personal. Guess if you I'll introduce myself. I am Shawn Nolan, and I will be your host as we will speak about such fascinating personal issues that you're not going to have any context for. But welcome to Confessions of a Method Writer. This is the podcast where you get to hear about all of my thoughts on gay marriage. But first off, we're going to talk about the birth of coffee. A nice cup of coffee. I'm drinking coffee right now, even though it's 1 in the morning. That's some damn good coffee. Little David Lynch there. So coffee. I guess coffee drinkers have a story about how coffee came into their life because it's not one of those drinks that you tend to get into when you're a child. At least maybe you shouldn't. And if you are, you're probably like one of those families that I met during my former career as a licensed funeral director, where I would roll up to the house and there would be a 10-year-old smoking a beer. I just screwed that one up. Drinking a beer or smoking a joint. Just put those two together. It's screw up number one. And marker. Okay, so anyway, coffee. So the reason why coffee became a part of my daily ritual is that I grew up in northeast Pennsylvania, and we have football around that area. So on Friday night, we would go down to the stadium in Pleasant Valley. The name of the high school I went to was Pleasant Valley, and to make up for that, we were the Bears. So, grr. So Friday night we'd go down to the football game and, socialize, hang out, talk, see people we know. Usually there would be some kind of weird flirtatious hangouts going on. Strange thing to be doing at a football game. And just south of the Poconos where I lived, the weather can get pretty cold during football season, and also can be a little damp. So, gotta warm those bones, right? And here I am in high school at the time, and, well, let me just put it this way. The hot chocolate tasted like shit. So, what else do you serve at the concession stand here that is hot? Coffee. And, we're talking, it's basic coffee, nothing really special. But they did have creamer, they had sugar, and that's where my coffee comes from. It is me getting a cup of probably really, kind of middle of the road type coffee and finding my flavor with some, prepackaged creamer and sugar. And so, a little sweet and creamy. That's how I take it. And coffee is kind of became a part of my process for, either needing to, time to reflect. I'd go to the diner. My favorite hangout would be to go to Snydersville Diner, Snydersville, Pennsylvania. It was what I would describe as being more of a greasy spoon type place. Pretty good food. They had what would be referred to in Long Island as disco fries, but that's not what they called them there. And coffee was pretty good. Great pie. Amazing pie. I kind of miss the Snydersville Diner. It was an interesting place to be. I could be there, for a long time, give the waitress a nice tip, not have to spend a lot of money. I presently live in Long Island, and we have diners, but it's not the same. It's not the type of place you want to go to and hang out in the booth. There's no real personality to it as much. It's those movies you see where people would go from town to town, and they're grabbing a bite at the diner or getting coffee and pie. Something very Twin Peaks about it. So there was that. Coffee becomes something that I drink in the morning and at night for entirely different reasons. In the morning, it seems to have a way to bring me online. I don't describe it as being something that wakes me up, but it maybe more or less centers me. And at night does about the same thing. Caffeine has a way of helping me relax and sleep. Kind of, I guess, very similar to a smoker in that way. Coffee has become kind of an interesting part. I'm curious what other people's thoughts on, what coffee kind of means to them. I see some of these memes, or they're kind of like, what is your coffee personality? And it's like, everything from like, if you take it black all the way to, like an extreme, like, I don't know how you describe it. It's almost like a creamy blonde hair kind of thing. I guess it's supposed to be something to tell about who you are. But it's it kind of, a lot of it goes back to hanging out at the diner, drawing pictures on the place setting, and writing notes, coming up with ideas for things, bits, jokes, ideas for stories that I'm never going to write. It's where I came up with this idea I always wanted to make into a short film, which was called Death and Cat. So yeah, Death and Cat, row. Death and Cat. So, which incidentally also takes place in a diner. But it had me thinking, like, there's a lot of things have changed where I can't go to these diners anymore. And I see these things online where they say, 3 things that you're not going to find in people's homes. And it's like a phone on the wall. Yeah, okay, so I don't have that. I know somebody who does. I think it sounds like I'm talking about Bigfoot when I talk about landlines to people, which makes me kind of wonder, have you never worked at an office? Have you never walked inside of a place that has an office? Those are landlines, and, a lot of businesses require that. I know places that if you don't have a landline in your home, they don't consider it a permanent residence, because that's how that a lot of times if you don't have a phone bill that goes to that residence, where is it you live? But there are the ways around that. Your utility bill, I don't know, taxes, shit like that. Wow, it's amazing how you think about what you're talking about and go, my God, I got freaking old. Another thing was DVDs. Nobody has DVDs anymore, except they do. There are a lot of people that have them. and not just ones that they had. There is a subculture of people that collect physical media in terms of them being movies and music. A crazy, like, oh my God kind of thing off the top of my head would be vinyl. Vinyl came back in a big way. And in a way, getting a nice DVD from, when I say DVD, I do mean DVD, Blu-ray, the 4K discs. I'm just using DVD as more of an umbrella here. But getting them from places like Shout Factory or Criterion, Kino Lorber. There's a couple other ones, another pretty good ones. But, it's almost like a repertory thing where, because I have my own little thoughts about movie theaters and how I don't think movie theaters are extremely important. I think that people that latch on to movie theaters as having to be the benchmark of whether or not cinema exists have some of their priorities just misplaced. Because it's kind of like saying, like, if a movie didn't play in the theater, it doesn't exist. And I would say to people my age, I'd be like, well, did you like Raiders of the Lost Ark? Or, E.T. Well, some of these movies you probably could have seen when they replayed. Like, I saw E.T. I had to look this up. They re-released E.T. in 1985, along with Return of the Jedi, which would explain why I remember seeing E.T. and Return of the Jedi in the movie theater. Because I would have been too young when they came out. But movies like Jaws, blanking on this is Jaws, Star Wars, Raiders of the Lost Ark. Even stuff like The Thing. Now I'm talking about people that are below the age of 43. Okay, you didn't see the movie when it first played, so does that mean the movie doesn't exist to you? I mean, you just, it played in the theater. You didn't get to see it in the theater. You saw it on VHS or on television. And that's where you fell in love with that movie. You may have eventually seen it in the theater, but you kind of have to get over yourself because seeing it on a big screen is probably not where you saw it. So you probably should make believe, not make believe that, the purity of cinema comes from that. I do enjoy seeing movies on a big screen. I do enjoy seeing movies that play in a more repertory type thing. I saw Lawrence of Arabia on the big screen. Amazing. And the first time I saw Lawrence of Arabia was not on the big screen. The first time I saw The Godfather was not on the big screen. The first time that I saw Star Wars was not on the big screen. Hell, I probably saw Star Wars in a pan-scan VHS that was, I don't know, not such great quality. Anyway, not to get too far off of it, but I have a continuing collection of physical media. So for me, physical media hasn't died. I think of it as a way of trying to keep my repertory theater of my own going. I've got the nicer television, improved my sound a little better, and I just don't enjoy having to go to the movie theater right now where the floors are sticky and I have to worry about whether or not the bulb is going to explode in the projector, where I just spent all this money on a ticket and spent all this time getting a babysitter so that me and my wife could go to a movie. Though, one time a year that we do. It's maybe easier to just curl up on the couch and watch something and enjoy that. And, I have the collection for that. Plus, if the internet goes out, all these people who say to me, well, you should just get things digital. There's a certain convenience to it. But if you've ever read the fine print on some of these digital retailers that you get them from, you should probably see whether or not you actually own the copy of the movie you have. And do keep in mind, if the internet does conk out, when I pull out my copy of blah, 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 it will play on my DVD player. And if your internet shits out, your copy will not. I'm sure you can probably play a downloaded one if you download it on your computer from .cloud. But, I guess we'll have to see how that works out for you. I do know of some people that had some things that they had bought through an online retailer for digital copies of music, films, and the entire collection got wiped out. So, I guess sucks to be them. But, this is all about, the brain fingers getting inside and, trying to figure out what it is what's been bothering me. And, I think it just kind of comes down to wanting to feel like I'm doing something and just not sitting around doing nothing. I've been doing another podcast with my friend Juan Gonzalez, and it's called the Shawn Cast. And we have funny little titles for some of our episodes. Probably either a better name or a more unique name than calling your podcast Confessions of a Method Writer. But I don't. Did we even talk about what the method writer part of it was in this one? Maybe we didn't. Maybe coffee. Coffee might have been the grounder on that one. But yeah. Trying to think here. So the brain fingers. Yeah, they get inside. They get inside your brain. And there's an idea. And the idea germinates. And sometimes you write some thoughts down. And the following day or a week from then, or a month, or in some cases, a couple of years later, you look at some of these notes, and some of them they're okay. Some of them are half thoughts. Sometimes you can't remember where it was you were going with it. And then other times, there's garbage. When you kind of look back and go, what was I thinking? I know I had, I think one of the better examples I have of that is I had an idea for a small project that I had wanted to do when I was at college. It was going to be a short for, I want to say, my freshman year. And in my head, this was probably something that was 5 minutes, between 5 and 10 minutes. And I wrote it as being kind of like a single scenario type thing. And there was something very, I don't know, it wasn't quite as personal, but I had some thoughts and feelings that I wanted to kind of talk about in this thing, and it was going to be a bit of a little like a little piece of comedy, because the interesting question is, what is comedy? I'd taken a class once. It was called, I don't know, comedy, introduction to comedy, comedy and its concepts. I don't know, comedy, the last temptation. I don't know. It was called something about that. But comedy, what is comedy? It's almost like saying, well, comedy is what's funny, and that's a very large simplification. So, what is comedy? How do you describe comedy? How do you define it? When you were to look at, say, maybe not comedians in terms of this, but when it comes to like a movie, what movie is the best example of being comedy? Is it something that continuously makes you have belly laughs, or something that keeps you at kind of a nice, like, I want to say, it's almost like having a nice high of joy. And I think it's a fascinating question. I don't know whether or not there's a right answer to it. I'm trying to remember. Somebody in a class of mine had given a definition of what they thought comedy was. And at the time, I think it sounded awful. And that was probably me just sounding, trying to sound off and be. There's probably a little bit of jealousy and one-upmanship to that. But I do remember it didn't sound brilliant. And that's probably the reason why it was a better answer or discovery of figuring out what comedy is. I mean, this is a class where we read Virginia Woolf. Let's see, what was it? It was Orlando. We had read Orlando, and the instructor felt that Orlando was an amazing example of comedy. I didn't quite get it. the point about it being comedy. So there's probably something more to it. Somebody smarter than me probably can, break that down as to why. And I guess in the age we're in now, I think exploring gender identity, why would that fit into comedy? So it might be more of a dated look into that. The other thing I was reading was The World According to Garp, which was a book that I did not find humorous much at all, but was surprised that they had made a pretty funny movie, although kind of melancholy too. Which made me think, that was one of the early movies of Robin Williams, and I had recently watched Popeye, and there, I'm not going to go so far and say that Popeye is a masterpiece, but what a strange fucking movie. Figure it's the late 70s, and Robert Evans is going to produce I know it's not a superhero movie, is going to produce a comic strip movie based on a one-eyed sailor who eats spinach, who has quite a tendency toward violence. With a woman who is shaped like a pole. And so they're like, okay, so who would be somebody do, we need an auteur, and they get Robin Williams to play Popeye and Robert Altman to direct this movie. Robert Altman. And it's not even like Robert Altman is phoning this in. It's a pretty decent, like, Robert Altman movie. It kind of fits into the movies that he was making in the 70s with all the overlapping dialogue and some of the the camera work and the focus ends, and just it was so fucking odd. And to hear Robin Williams just muttering the whole time, he's always commenting on stuff, and it's so weird that you can't understand like much of anything he says. And God, it's just, my daughter got a kick at it. She was wondering, she's like, why does his arms look so weird? I didn't have like much of any kind of answers for her. She thought it was a really strange looking movie and kept wondering why people were singing. Oh, no, let me get that wrong. Singing off key. Why is everybody singing off key? Yeah. So Popeye. See it now. It's on HBO Max. It's got an octopus. And yeah. Yeah, but that's the brain fingers getting in there. You wouldn't think like, oh, well, we could do Popeye, and we can do it as like a 1970s Robert Altman movie. Of course, nobody would do that now. That's a movie that would never get made. Back to the brain fingers, though. I mean, is this what I'm down to? Like, I gotta wait until the middle of the night to sit down and get these juices going. Talking about the subjects I want to talk about. I had done a little bit of a joke podcast to practice this, where I was talking about an actor who was an octopus, and I'll include that at the end of this. But it was a way of just trying to figure out my voice, and I've been listening to some of these podcasts, the ones I do here with the Confessions of a Method Writer, and the ones I do the Shawn cast with Juan Gonzalez, and I don't remember my voice sounding this bad. I don't know why it sounds so awful. I was like, have I always sounded like this? I did some voiceover work for some projects when I was in college, because I used to do different kind of voices. But it's like, I don't know, it sounds like I've gotten, like my voice has gotten like weirdly a little more nasal, and it has like this weird kind of like it's not even like a gruff husk. It sounds like it went down an octave and got even like, I don't know, it doesn't sound as sharp. I recently I had an employer, the last job I was at, who told me I had a really unusual voice, which, I'm sorry, the way he said it, it's an insult. I mean, that's how he, it just didn't feel good coming from him the way it did. It sounded like such an insult. It's like, maybe I got to practice how I say things so that when I come on this podcast, I don't sound like like my voice is giving up on me. maybe I also shouldn't be doing it at 1 in the morning. But, like I said, I got the coffee, and the coffee is where it all began. So I guess that's where it all ends, too. See, that's how I should have ended this. And instead, I'm just going to keep going. Not for too much longer, though. My friend Juan was saying that, I was talking to him on the cast about some ideas I had and some projects I wanted to do, because I've always got different things that I'm, got brewing in my head. Again, it's, my brain fingers moving around and, getting ideas out. And he said, that's a good idea. Don't, cut it out of here so that people aren't listening to it. And I wasn't even sure if it was a good idea. I almost just kind of needed to, get it out there to, hear myself finally say it, because it's been brewing inside my head all this time. And it just kind of feels like, you're walking around like Zeus and you've got, all this shit just swarming around in your head. And you just need to be able to crack it open with, a hammer so that, I think it was Athena, can just leap out and it finally exists. So, I guess when we crack open our head, I guess we'll see if our brain fingers have birthed us an Athena that is, is good, or an Athena that is, a dead end. I guess it is. It kind of has gotten a little late and tiring. I guess the coffee's not doing its job. Trying to keep me centered. Yeah. I really do miss the Snydersville Diner. I'm going to have to see whether or not they're still around. They used to be open 24 hours. All right. Well, the only other thing I can think that I wanted to talk about, I'll have to save for next time and give you a little preview of it. Although I might talk about it on the Shawn cast. It's it's about the Academy Awards, the Oscars. Nothing like watching a bunch of rich people give each other golden statues. How many times do I have to hear that fucking joke? As a little, I'll just give a little bit of a teaser here. I like watching the Oscars, and it's not because I'm a complete mark for that stuff, although I am, but for a different reason than some people would be. And, I kind of felt like a real tool when I was in college, because I went to the Knitting Factory in New York City, or as we call it in Long Island, and parts of New Jersey, the city. And I was going to school at the time, and I had met this young lady, and she told me she was going to be at the Knitting Factory. And I went there, and she was doing she was involved in an art thing. That's the best way for me to describe it. And I remember they were introducing another act, because they also had bands that played, and this guy was strumming out this really shitty song, but that's what you do. You go places to work out material. So he's strumming this shitty song, but he starts it off with, "Well, I'm really glad you're all here. Better to be here than having to sit home watching the fascist Oscars." And all I really think was, does it really bother you? Or why are you so bitter to call it the fascist Oscars? I mean, calm down, man. If anybody's sitting in front of you right now, they're obviously not watching the Oscars. You don't have to be a dick about it. Yeah. yeah, we're all here. We're all listening to your very uninspired music, which I'm sure it's your brilliance. That's another great thing. Me having to grow up and see friends' bands. Okay, well, I'm rambling on here. I'll have to get to the Oscar story next time. But it has to do with the in memoriam, the once a year where people seem to give a shit about who died, and then all they do is complain about how the Oscars didn't honor people. And I'll save that for next time because I have to do a little bit of research on the subject, but I have some personal thoughts with it. So thank you for listening. Do catch the Shawn podcast, which you can find on not my YouTube page, but it's on Juan Carlos Gonzalez Jr.'s YouTube page, and I will leave a link on here for that. So, until next time, pour yourself another cup of coffee. All right. Good night. So now stay tuned for a little project that I did a couple of weeks back to try and practice doing podcast recordings with my microphone and all this equipment through GarageBand. And it was about octopuses as actors, or something to that effect, called 8 Ways to Sunday. So enjoy. Welcome back to our multi-part podcast about the drum-playing octopus from the film Aquaman. As some people know, the octopus is one of the most engaging characters from the 21st century. What some people don't know is that the octopus does have a name. It is Topo the octopus, who in fact is Aquaman's pet. Going all the way back to the Silver Age, that is right. Topo the octopus, very deep history in the history of comics, the history of Aquaman comics. It does. There is, a part of the story where even Topo babysits Aquababy. So he has some involvement. It plays the drums, very good on the skins. In fact, Aquaman taught him to play the drums. And to play this extremely layered character that, is given the beat during a very epic battle between these two brothers. Topo the octopus had to be played by somebody who has the gravitas, the exciting, has the bones to play this type of thing, which is interesting because it's supposed to be a cephalopod. So Topo the octopus was in fact played by character actor Jack Bull. I'm blanking on his name here. It is Jack Bull Childs. That is right, Jack Bull Childs. And Jack Bull Childs comes from a very long line of actors in his family. His father actually appeared in Popeye. At the end of that film, Robin Williams punches Jack Bull Child's father, who I believe his name was Bill. So Bill the octopus, who's grabbing at olive oil, and I think the baby's there, and Popeye comes after eating the spinach, punches him, and he goes, up into the sky, And then, Bluto's swimming away. But it doesn't stop with even just Bill the octopus. There's a history even beyond that. Uh, Bill the octopus's grandfather, in fact, was the one who started the family lineage in film. Uh, Appeared in, I believe it was a Sinbad film, and from there was able to get some guest spots and a couple of things. I think he did a couple of episodes of Wanted Dead or Alive, and there's thought he might have been on an episode of Bonanza. Uh, given kind of like a side eye to Michael Landon, and that which could probably explain why his son, this would be Bill the Octopus's father, whose name was Massimo. Massimo actually appeared on Highway to Heaven. So, I guess it's great to have that connection to Michael Landon. So Michael Landon was able to continue this lineage of these octopus character actors. But enough of that. So being in a Sinbad movie or Popeye films, or showing up on Highway to Heaven, and then eventually Jack Bull Childs, he follows in the family tradition, and was able to make it into the film Aquaman, playing Topo the Octopus. And it must have been a hard thing for him. I know he was trying for a long time. The drums is something that just kind of is in his tentacles. At one time there was going to be some kind of super group where he was working with the Doof Warrior on guitar. And they weren't able to make many gigs, but then they kind of went their separate ways. But anyway, he was able to make it into Aquaman, which is very good. I know that he had some difficulty turning that into bigger success, though, where some of the directors would look at him. He would maybe have a good read. I've heard he's not too bad at a cold read. But they say, we're sorry, we're going in another direction. You just have too many arms. Too many arms. And you must have been tough for Jack Bull Childs. Because here he is. He's got this, this great history to his family as actors. His grandfather knew Bud Westmore, who was the man who was the head of the makeup and hair for Universal Studios, who infamously stole credit for creating the Gillman makeup and costume for Creature from the Black Lagoon. And as we all know, that was not Bud Westmore. But Bud Westmore, he was a guy who did hair. He was not a makeup guy. There's no way that he could create the Creature from the Black Lagoon. That just was totally just such poppycock. But so anyway, so Jack Bull Childs, he makes it into Aquaman. I heard that he had no problem with the filming. They did it underwater. He breathes underwater. Apparently Momoa is, he's a real mensch, and they keep in touch now, which is good. Hopefully, so he's apparently going to show up in the second one. They're able to make that happen. As a little side note here, just something I wanted to bring up about his grandfather. Let's see here. So this would have been Massimo's father. I still haven't been able to find out his name. So we'll just call him Grandfather Octopus. So Grandfather Octopus was he had told a story about when he would go to the Palmetto. Oh no, I'm pronouncing that wrong. It is the Palmetto Diner, which would be in West Hollywood. They have a really good Reuben sandwich, and he used to meet up there with Jack Elam, and him and Jack Elam would tell stories about what was going on. They were working in the studio system. Elam was doing a lot of B pictures at that time, and the guy who used to serve them there, I think he worked the grill, is in fact actually the guy who is the back of the head of Jesus from the 1959 Ben-Hur. Grandfather Octopus, he hung out with all these guys. Probably had their own little Octopussy party. I don't know. That might be a little bit of reaching. What they really should do is they should get the Doof Warrior to also do something underwater with Jack Boltschiles and being a part of his underwater crew. It's all Warner Brothers, so I'm sure that you get the Doof Warrior from Mad Max, and you get the octopus from Aquaman. I'm sure that they could put something together. This is what I think of, always thinking about how to make things the best possible story and how to use the best talent. And when you got an octopus, you can play the drums. I mean, from what I heard, his rendition of In the Air Tonight, maybe Phil Collins should have gone with that one, but Phil, I guess, maybe wanted to go in another direction. Maybe Phil was jealous. Too many arms. That's what we really should have named this podcast, was Too Many Arms. That's probably going to bring a conclusion to our episode here on Topo the Octopus. 8 Ways to Sunday. So thinking about with my octopus teacher, recently there's been some interest in octopuses. So you got to think, like, if people are really interested in these octopus'sises, they're really there's a little bit of a almost like a following to Topo the Octopus. I mean, the guy's got his own fan page. Probably gonna get his own spin-off film. So until that happens, we'll just have to pray with all 8 arms. All right. So I will catch you next time, and keep swimming. Bye-bye.